I'm very proud to be able to present this video to you today. It is of a classic of Christian literature, the Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. And it was published in 1768 originally, I believe. This is a very early version, 1769. It's abbreviated from what the original text, but complete and still very, very, very much worth taking a look at. As I said, it's illustrated with wonderful woodcut prints, and I hope that you'll enjoy this and hope that you'll be blessed by it. See you soon.
The progress of the pilgrim is here represented by Christian leaving the city of destruction in terror and alarm at its fate. He is met by Evangelist, who directed him to flee from the wrath to come and keep yonder shining light in his eye, where it should be told him what to do. Christian had not proceeded far till he fell into the slough of despond and was relieved by one called Help, who set him on his way. He was afterward beguiled by worldly wise men, but was again put on the right path by Evangelist. Christian at length arrived at the gate, upon which was inscribed, "Knock, and it shall be opened." He knocked, and it was opened by one good will, who let him in. Beelzebub, as he entered, gave him a pull, but Christian escaped. Christian, having fairly escaped Beelzebub and his emissaries, was kindly welcomed by goodwill, and showed many rare sights by interpreter. He passed the walls of salvation, and came to a cross, where his bundle fell off. Christian, now being rid of his burden, pushed on more lightly, and took the narrow path up the hill, and struggled hard till he arrived at the arbor, prepared by the Lord of the place for weary pilgrims, where he sat and refreshed himself. When Christian got to the top of the hill, he met two men running, named Timorous and Mistrust, who said they were bound for Mount Zion, but meeting with two lions they were afraid. Christian passed the lions, who being chained could not hurt him. When Christian lifted up his eyes, he beheld the palace of Beautiful, and after a few interrogations was admitted by a damsel named Discretion, who with her two sisters, Piety and Prudence, he held a long conversation. After leaving these good damsels, Christian passed on his way, and in the middle of the valley of humiliation, he met with Apollyon, with whom he had a bloody struggle, Apollyon throwing darts as thick as hail. But at last Christian overcame. Now at the end of this valley, another called the Valley of the Shadow of Death, in the midst of which he perceived the mouth of hell, from which flame and smoke issued out in such abundance that he was obliged to put up his sword and betake himself to all prayer. Shortly after this he came up with Faithful, with whom he held sweet converse till they came to Vanity Fair. A merchant asking what they would buy, they said the truth, which he took amiss, and raised a hubbub, so that they were both taken up and put in a cage for public view. Christian and Faithful were brought before Mr. Hategood to stand their trial. Envy, superstition, and hypocrisy were brought forward as evidences, who did not fail to tell a partial story, which a partial jury confirmed, and Faithful was confirmed to die at the stake. Faithful was brought out and suffered at the stake. Thus came he to his end. But there stood behind the multitude of a chariot and horses, into which he was taken up and carried through the clouds. Christian, escaping, went on his way. Christian soon fell in with Hopeful, another pilgrim, with whom he journeyed, and they, having slept in the policies of Doubting Castle, were taken prisoners by Giant Despair, who treated them harshly. A key found in Christian's bosom opened the doors, and they made their escape. Having escaped from Giant Despair, they soon met with shepherds of the Delectable Mountains. Leaving this country, they came to the enchanted ground, where they fell in with some of the shining inhabitants of the city. Christian and Hopeful, drawing nigh unto the celestial city, beheld the streets were paved with pure gold, but there was a very deep river through which they must pass. The pilgrims were alarmed and begun to sink, but rose again and were welcomed on the other side by two glorious persons. Christian's wife and children wept for him until a heavenly messenger gave her a letter to follow her husband and live with him forever. At first she was overcome, but taking the road with all her children, they fell in with mercy and went toward the wicket gate. After they had gotten safely through the Slough of Despond, they arrived at the gate, where they knocked a long time, till at length the keeper called out, "Who's there?" and opened the gate, taking Christiana by the hand, welcomed them, saying, "Suffer the little children to come unto me." With some difficulty, mercy was admitted, and they safely arrived at Interpreter's house. Supper being ready and thanks given, they partook of a hearty repast. Interpreter asked how she became a pilgrim. She said it was because of the loss of her husband and a letter from the King of Zion. In the morning they were much refreshed. Greatheart was sent along with them to guide them on their way. They passed the place where the load fell from Christian's back and came to the place where Simple, Sloth, and Presumption were hanging in chains. They soon arrived at the Hill of Difficulty. Greatheart showed them the spring where Christian drank. They then began to ascend the hill, but Christiana began to pant and want rest. But Greatheart encouraged them, telling them they were near the arbor where they would find rest. Being refreshed at the arbor and approaching Doubting Castle, Greatheart determined to level it with ground. He and the giant had a severe fight, but the giant was overcome. They had demolished the castle and released many prisoners, where many strange sights were seen.
They still persevered in their journey by the straight way and narrow path of pilgrim, occasionally meeting with difficulties and encouragement till they arrived at the land of Beulah, where the sun shines night and day, and they betook themselves to rest. Now while they lay here, the post came from the celestial city with a letter to Christiana, and the contents were this: "Hail, good woman, I bring thee good tidings that the Master calleth for thee, and expecteth thou that thou shouldst stand in his presence within these 10 days. Now the day drew on that Christiana must be gone, so the road was full of people to see her take her journey. So she came forth and entered the river with a beacon of farewell to those that follow her to the riverside. The last words she was heard to say were, I come, Lord, to be with thee and bless thee. So her children and friends returned to their place, for those that waited for Christiana had carried her out of their sight. So she went and called and entered in at the gate with all the ceremonies of joy that Christian had done before her." Finis. I hope you enjoyed the story. A wonderful look at a very early edition of this Christian classic, and even this abbreviated version has many, many lessons in it for all of us. So God bless you all. I'll see you again real soon, and I love you all very much.